vaccine, and I'm a queen.
Hey there, my gorgeous friends on the internet. In this episode, we are going to talk about differences between Figma and Adobe XD. I know a lot of people wonder, hey, what should I use, Ed? Should I use Figma because it's quite popular, or should I stay in the Adobe ecosystem? So I'm going to share you some differences. I know I did a lot of Adobe XD tutorials recently, but you're going to actually see, surprise, spoiler alert, I prefer Figma. So let's get going. Okay, let's start off this comparison with shapes, because shapes are important for building simple logos, to creating buttons and your layouts. So one thing that you're going to notice is the flexibility that you have between XD and Figma. So if we take a look in XD, you just have a rectangle, circle, triangle, and a line that you can do. Whereas in Figma, you have rectangle, line, arrow, ellipse, polygon, and star. So you have a bit more options to play around with. Now also, let's just go back here to XD. One thing I don't like about XD is when you create a shape, it just adds a border to it and it doesn't fill it up. And that's very unfortunate because most of the times when I build shapes, I want them to be filled. I always remove the border and add a color to it, right? Whenever you want to build a button, for example, you just want a filled up button with a color in it. So you have to always remove the border and add the fill. Whereas in Figma, you just literally drag it out and it adds a gray color to it, which is nice. You can just quickly get it up and running. Now, another big difference is what you can do with the shapes. So, for example, I like to give this example of creating a donut or maybe a semicircle. How would you do that in XD? Well, you would have to grab out an ellipse, get rid of the border, add a fill to it. So we're going to make this a nice brownish color like that. And then what you would need to do is add another one on top of it like that, and then center this just like that, and then grab, let me just change the color so it's a bit more obvious. Then you would have to grab both of these shapes and do a subtract boolean here, which combines them together and just extracts that middle part from that shape. And now you're left with a donut. There we go. So now you have this stacked up two ellipses together that make up this shape, this one shape. Whereas in Figma, you have more options when you drag out a circle. So if I let this go, I just add the color to it again, make this a nice brownish color. Look at this, you have options here like arc. So I can just drag this out and quickly make a Pac-Man if I wanted to, or a semicircle like that. And I can also move the starting position of it and the ratio of it. So I can just drag this and then close this up, and boom, I'm left with a donut. The nice thing about this is that it's very easy to modify. So I can just always click on it, boom, adjust it if I want to make it a super thick donut, and boom, that's it. Boom, boom. I did like 5 booms there. And I have one shape. I don't have to do these weird subtraction booleans, because changing this and modifying this is going to be a nightmare. So that's very cool, and you can do this with multiple things like polygons. So if I drag this out, I can just increase the count if I wanted to in it, add a radius, whereas in XD, you're pretty much limited to everything. And also, even creating a simple arrow, I can just drag out an arrow, increase the size of this, modify what kind of triangle I want at the end of it, and just be done with it. Whereas there's just no nice way of doing that here. Quite important basic tools that simple things and assets that you would use that you're not going to find here. So yeah, you just have a line. So again, there's no simple way of doing this. Okay, so that's shapes for you. Another thing that's a bit frustrating about XD is sliders. So for example, let's say I want to make a text here that's going to say this is a test. All right, so if I want to increase the size of this, actually this is Figma, unbelievable. Okay, there we go. I already did it here. So in XD, if I want to increase the size of it, I can just drag this up and down. And as you can see, that increases the font size here. You can do the same thing in Figma by just going here where the font size is and just dragging this up and down. There's a slider that's going to appear. Now that's all fine and dandy, but in XD, it doesn't really apply to everything. So for example, if I want to make just a rectangle here like that, I'm going to add a fill to it. Let's just do a light gray like that. I'm gonna remove, let's say I wanna increase the size of this border, right? So you go here to size, but there's no nice way of visualizing this. There's nothing to grab, nothing to slide. So you just have to literally go down here and increase it till you like the way it looks, 20, right? Whereas in XD and Figma, oh my God, this is gonna be very confusing to keep saying these two. In Figma, you can literally do the same sliding thing here. So I can just go add a stroke, black, I can go here and just increase this up and down so I can visually see the size of it and not having to guess by typing the number in it, right? So it's very consistent here. Everything that's a number here, you can just literally grab and slide it left and right to modify it. Whereas here, you cannot do that. So if I want to change the width of this or the height or anything, it doesn't work. And I think that's quite important, especially when you add a drop shadow to it. Here, right, I can just increase this opacity to, let's say, 50, 60, and then just increase the blur and visually see how that's going to affect it. And then the position of it, it's just so easy to work with. Whereas here, again, if I add a drop shadow, I mean, I cannot slide, I cannot do anything. I literally have to guess by clicking here. You can slide the opacity, which is nice, so I can increase this. But other than that, I need to type 20, go here, 10, and hope it looks good. And if it doesn't, you have to keep guessing and fine-tuning it. It just takes more time. I don't know why they don't add it. It's a bit, again, just makes your job a bit harder. But yeah, the slider thing is a big one for me, and I prefer Figma's version over XD's. Here's another big one when it comes to fonts. Again, Figma does it better. So I usually find myself, every time when I try out XD and then jump back to Figma, I notice that I don't have to fuss around with fonts and install fonts and stuff like that. So for example, I'm like scrolling through Google Fonts, I like something like doses here, for example, right? And I want to use this in my design. So if I want to do it in XD, I'll go here, go to the text, I love donuts, and doses, like that, all right? So I'm gonna grab this, go here to the text, and I want to search up doses, and it's not here. Damn. Okay, that's unfortunate. Okay, so I'll go here, open it up, download the family, install it, and then use it. Whereas in Figma, it's literally gonna detect all the fonts, and I never had a problem with it. I'm not sure if they sync up because it's cloud-based, so they just download it off the internet and use it in their file, but it works. So this is donuts and doses, like that, right? I grab this and look at that, it just detects it here. I can just start typing it, doses, enter, and boom, I'm done. I don't have to go through all of that steps of downloading a font, installing the font, blah, 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 da, 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 da. Okay, that's it, I'm done. I'm gonna calm myself down and we're gonna move to the next thing. Next up, let's talk about Smart Animate, what you can animate and what you cannot. And surprise, surprise, Figma allows you to do much more than XD. So for example, let's say we have this rectangle here. Okay, it's a blue one in this case. And let's say I just want to transition the color of it. Okay, so you can imagine that maybe on hover or on click, we want to transition this to a lighter or darker color. Let's just do a totally different color to just make this example a bit more visible. So I'm going to duplicate the frame. We're going to talk about component states a bit later on in this video. But for now, I'm just going to create two frames and I want to smart animate this to this. So basically it's going to take a look at both frames and it's going to detect the changes and it's going to animate those changes. So in this case, I'm just going to change the fill of this to green, all right? So now if I go on the first artboard here, I click on it, I go up here to prototype, okay, I grab this little arrow, drag it here, and then the type is gonna be auto animate. So what I'm saying is, again, whenever I tap, so that's our trigger, whenever I tap on this artboard, animate this to green in 1 second. So if I hit play, I click on it, and boom, it's instant, it doesn't work. Okay, so you cannot do that in XD. Animating color is just not a thing. Whereas in Figma, if we go here, I'm gonna duplicate this frame, paste it, I'm gonna click on the first one. Again, same thing. I'm just gonna drag this arrow right here. It's gonna open up this menu here for us. I'm gonna say Smart Animate, same thing, on click, 1 second. And I'm gonna just grab this and change the color of it to a nice blue, okay? So click on it, hit play. It's gonna open up the prototype right now. Takes a while, but it's worth it. So here we go. Tap and boom, we have a nice transition of the color. Easy peasy, lemon squeezano. Lovely. So that's one thing that's quite important that for some reason Adobe XD lacks. Another important thing is, let me get rid of this. Duplicate this. What if I want to do like a effect transition? So maybe I want to blur this out or blur it back into frame. So I'll go here to design, click on this first object, go here to object blur and just increase this to maximum, all right? And then this one is gonna stay the same. So again, let's go to prototype, drag, drop, boom, 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 tap play, it's on auto animate 1 second, click on it, and after 1 second, it just goes into focus. Whereas here in Figma, I can just grab this, add the layer blur, click, increase the size of this. For some reason, you can even do more, whereas XD limits you for some reason. So it's just a blob now, which is perfect. And then just duplicate this, boom, change this back to 0. So I'm gonna say 0. Again, this is an extreme case. You probably wouldn't do it this way, but just to make it more obvious, I'm gonna hit play and take a look at that. Boom, we have a transition. Let me just make this a bit less. It's too crazy right now. Go back to design. I'll just take this object. Let me go here. Okay, there we go. Take this and just decrease it down to maybe 30 or so. Let's do 50. All right, so it's nice and blurred out. Go back here. And look at that. Transitions. And same thing applies with drop shadow, inner shadow, and all of the effects down here. Another thing that's kind of weird about XD is you cannot add linear gradient on text. So if I go here in XD, I'm just gonna delete this, delete the shape. I'll just add some text. So let's say this is Ed. All right, I'm gonna add a bold to this. Like that. Look at that. I can only pick a color, no gradients, nothing. So there's a way around it, but it's not so nice. The way you have to do it is create a rectangle with the shape of the gradient by removing the border, go into fill, linear, drag this model level up here, drag the other corner here, add your gradient to it. So let's say like that. And then this one is gonna be like that. Okay, let's make this more obvious. So now you can shape the mask of this with the text. So what you do is you take the text and put it on top like this, position it the way you want it, grab both, and then, oh, wait, we don't have the option. What you also need to do is grab the text and create a path out of it so it becomes an SVG. So you have to go to Edit, actually Object, Text. Where is it? I don't even know where it is. It's somewhere here. Range, Transform. Oh my goodness. Edit. No, it has to be here. I swear I saw the path, convert to path. There we go. So now it's a path. And then we can grab both and then we can mask with shape and boom, you have a gradient. Lovely. Whereas in Figma, you just make the text. So this is Ed, like that. Put it in the center here, just like that. Zoom in, let's make this a bit bigger. Perfect. It's hard to align in the center. There we go. And I can just open up the fill here and just do a linear gradient if I wanted to. Not to mention radial, angular, diamond, and all the rest that you can do here. So boom, literally just drag it the way you like it, like that. Sounds like a song. Drag it the way you like it. Add your color to it, boom, increase this. Let's do like, oh, this is an awful gradient, but we're gonna go with it. Purple, light purple. And there we go, you are done. How easy. Oh, not to mention, you can also animate the gradient in Figma if you want. So just go in here to prototype, dragging this here. If I want to do something like this, I can, just by opening this up and maybe dragging it all the way here. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but let's say you want to do something like that. Go here, click, play, let's see. There we go, look at that, animating the gradient. Now maybe not on text, but you can use it on a rectangle or something else. But you can do it, which is very cool. Damn you, XD, still got a long way to go. Let's talk about prototyping a bit more in detail. So in XD here, I just have a simple button that has two artboards. So we're gonna smart animate throughout the whole thing. So this is the initial state, and then it's gonna turn into a bubble, and then it's gonna turn back into the original form, but with a different background color. That's it, super simple. So basically this one has a tap on it, and then it's gonna smart animate, and this one has a delay. So after 0 seconds, just transition back to it. So this is how it looks like. We hit play up here, click on it, and boom, we have that effect. Now the cool thing I like about Adobe XD is that you have this recording feature up here. So just literally click on it, do your animation, you have a nice MP4 file that you can share with your friends, family, and they're not gonna care, but hey, it's cool. And you can also enable the microphone, so you can just talk over it and be like, bruh, bruh. Okay. But that's about it. That's all you have here. Now, if we check back on Figma, the cool thing is that you have this flow. So every artboard, or frame I should say, can be named. So you can add a title to it and a description in here. So this is my initial state. The button is clickable. If we click on this one, it's gonna say bubble animation. Animation is in progress. And then this is the finish right here. Okay, so you can name them. And then when you hit play, here's the cool part. You can click, you have the nice animation and the background animation. Thank you, Figma. And I can just literally see all my flows in here with the description and just click through them to see. If I want to just visualize the bubble animation, I can just click on that. If I want to go back to the initial state and then try it again, I can do that very easily just by clicking on it. How cool is that? Whereas in XD, you're kind of stuck of visualizing it once and then exiting out of it and then hitting play again, which is quite annoying. There's a way to fix that, but that's going to cause, again, another issue. So I can literally take the last frame and drag it back to the original and have it on tap. So now if I hit play, all right, I can tap again to go back to the initial position. But again, if this becomes quite complicated and you have multiple animations and different flows, it's quite messy. So let me show you an example. Let's say in Figma, I want to add 2 more things to this button. So maybe on click, I want that animation to happen. But from here, maybe I want to add a drag and also a hover state to it. So I'm going to duplicate this. All right, I'm going to drag it up here. I'm going to duplicate this again and drag it down here. All right, so for this one, I'm just going to drag this out like that. And for this one, I'm just going to change the background color like that. All right, so for MacBook 3 here, I can go to prototype, drag this one up here, and I want to say on drag, change to this shape. But on hover, change to this. Okay, so I can also name them. Go here to the flow. I can say dragging on this one. And on this one, I can just say hover or something, or click. Let's do a click. Yeah, it's on click. Okay, so now if I go back here, look at that. They have been added. So I can visualize this one. just go to the finish one, click on it, and look at that. We have the hover or click, but I can also just quickly go back there to the finish and drag it out. Or I can go back to my initial state, visualize how that looks, do the dragging, go back here, do the clicking, okay? So it's very easy to quickly get through all of them and not have any issues. Whereas here now, if I want to do that, we're going to have a problem because on click now, I'm going back to the original state. Okay, so I added it here just the same way, but again, now I cannot go back to the initial state. I have to go, because I want to continue with these two different flows. I mean, I guess you could work around it because I added this one to the button now, and then from this one you can drag it back to the initial state. But again, it becomes quite messy and hard to manage. So let's play this very quickly. Click, all right, and then I can drag that way. But again, there's no way of me going back, so I have to close it, open it, click, and then I can do the hovering if I wanted to, just like that. So again, I had to add it to the button here, which is probably what we should have done here anyways. But again, you have to go to the frame and then drag it back to the initial state if I want to go back. And then from here, go to the artboard and drag it back there if I want to go back to that, like that. Oh my God. Okay, so if I hit play now, I can click and then do the, see, it becomes quite tricky to work all of this out and make sense of them. Whereas here, it's just nice and clean. Okay, let's talk about assets, which is a pretty big and important part of creating your design. So first of all, what you would do is you would grab the texts. So you would choose a font family that you think would be appealing for the website, your different font sizes, the different color schemes and components that you would use. You would drop it all in an asset. And then when you start actually building stuff out, you would just click on those and have it all nicely laid out. So I just have an assets artboard here, and I added a few colors. This is the color scheme for my website, and some text and a button, okay? So let's see how you would do that. Well, first of all, you would need to toggle here. I need to move away because I have the laptop in the way. So here are the layers, right? So I can click on them, visualize them, turn them on and off. And I have to go all the way here in the corner to libraries. And if I want to add these in my asset group, I would just go here, click on the colors, boom, and I have it right there. So just click on the plus and boom, I added them to my assets. Same thing with text. You would just click on these and that's about it. Click, 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 and you are done. Now, okay, what I don't like about XD is when you actually start designing your website. So let's go here and just add a new artboard. Just do a 1920 by 1080. It might seem like I'm biased towards Figma, but it's just because Adobe XD still sucks. That's all. That's my honest opinion. Lacks so many features, but it is what it is. Okay, so I'm here. Look how annoying this is. I have to go all the way to layers here. So if I want to add something, whoops, there we go. And let's say I want to make a text, okay? So this is a text. All right, so I have that, beautiful. Now, I want to make this a header. So there's no way of me doing it straight here. I have to go back to the asset folder right here. If it would load up, click, so go here and then click on one of these and boom, and then go back to the layers and then do something else. So maybe I want to have another one. Maybe I want to add a navbar with a color. So drag this out right there, click, and then again, go back all the way here, click on one of these, go back to my layers. So you have to keep jumping around, which is quite frustrating. Grab my button, drop it there, perfect. Okay. Also, if I want to modify this, I would go here. So let's say I have, now this is a cool feature, but Figma has it as well. If I grab out a rectangle, add this to my assets, let's say I have an image something or a border here with this color. If I just go here and edit this, it's gonna change all of it like that, right? So that's pretty cool. You don't need to individually go back to each. And if I also want to just change one and make it a bit different, I can just go here to the fill, and there we go. In Figma, I like this better because I don't have to do this jumping around. So again, we have the same thing, we have colors. So the way you add it to your assets here is you don't have to go all the way here and then back. What you can do is just literally click on the color, for example, and hit this plus here. Not that plus, my apologies. This 4 rectangular button thing that says style. Click on it, just hit plus, add a name to it, green, and you are done. Click on this one, all right, and just repeat blue. My apologies. Click, plus, blue, enter, and then we can go to the headers, do the same thing here, plus, I can call this header, I can call this subheader, and this one is gonna be paragraph. So plus paragraph, like that. Okay, now when you create a component, that automatically gets added to your assets. So you don't have to do that manually. So there we go. If we go in here now and pop this open, you're gonna see we have our components here in the assets. And on the right side here, we have our textiles and our colors. Now here's the cool thing. When I create a new artboard or frame, click on MacBook Pro, and let's say I'm starting to design my website. I'm gonna say this is a header, like that. I can just grab this and go right here, whether it says text, and I can just click on it and I'm done. Or just go through all of the styles I have right here. That way, I still have my layers open so I can work on other stuff, and it's just so much faster. Same with the fill. If I want to add the color, boom, just like that. Add a nav bar. I don't have to do this jumping around back and forth between these buttons down here. So again, just click here, boom. Now, if I want to add the component, then yes, you do have to jump over here to the assets library. But that's about it. It's not really that big of a deal. So that's the big difference. For me, I feel like it's more effective. Now, you can reuse this so in another file if you wanted to. So let me just get rid of this. All right, so we have this right here, this asset folder. Let's say I want to use it in another project. So the way you do it is you go over again. Let me show you an XD first. You would go here to Document Assets, click on this button here, and then update it or share it or whatever it says initially. I made some changes here, so let me just get rid of this very quickly. Okay, so click here, I guess update, boom, that's it. You can also share and invite people to it if you wanted to. And then when you go back here and just create a new design, so I'm gonna go for web. It's not working, come on. There we go. All right, so we have this frame. We can always just go here to, I believe, browse libraries, and there we go. Random asset is now synced. So now when you go here to libraries, you have your document assets, which is for the current local file. But you can go back here and you're gonna have access to random assets with everything that you had. So that's cool. So in Figma, it's quite similar. You would just go here to the library, and you would publish these assets, publish styles. Now, the one disadvantage is you cannot have components. You need to upgrade to a pro plan. So that sucks a bit, not gonna lie, but it is what it is. So publish styles like that. And then in here, let's say we have another file, you have access to them right here. So you can just turn on the assets and boom, you have it all available. Okay, let's talk about component states very quickly. So, and this one I actually prefer Adobe XD's version of doing it. So what you can do is, let's say I have a button and I want to have two different states on it. Like when I hover it or when I click it, I want to run a specific animation. So I'm just going to create a rectangle here, go to design, add a color to it very quickly. All right, there we go, like a light dark blue. and then some text saying, hey there, all right? So you would have a button like this, and let's say I want to make it a component. So I can click up here, create a component, perfect, and it's gonna be here in my assets. So I can just drag it out like that, and boom, I have multiple buttons. Now I can add specific animations to this component if I wanted to. And the way you do that is, this is brand new, it's just introduced. If it doesn't work for you, it's because it's still in beta, but I have access to it, so okay, sorry. So here we go. So you would create a button, and then what you can do is go here to variants and click plus. So click plus, and there we go, creates a new button for you. And on the variant 2, again, you can name it any way you want, you can add a description to it, etc, etc. So what I can do is grab this and then make changes to it. So let's say I want to add a little curve to it like that, and change the color of it to a dark like that. Okay, cool. And you can create multiple one of these if you wanted to. And now what I can do is just grab this, go to prototype, drag this sucker in here like that, on click or drag or whatever you want to. I'll just leave on click. I want to change to variant 2. And I'm going to leave smart animate on 500 milliseconds. And that's it. So that's your component prototype. So I can remove this, move it off screen if I wanted to. And in my designs, now I can just drag in my buttons. And if I hit play, it's going to run the animation as soon as I click on it. So click, and look at that, we have a nice cool animation. So again, I can drag multiple one of these, and the animation is going to work on all of them. So let's take a look at that. Bam, 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 bam. Super cool. Now let's take a look the way Adobe XD does it. Again, I prefer this because it's just a little bit cleaner. I'm going to remove this component that I had previously in there. I'm just going to drag out a button here, change the color like that. Okay, remove the border, add a text saying hey there, like that. Center this, grab these two, make a component. There it is. So it's up here, as you can see, it says default state, and I can just click plus, and I can add a new one. Let's say a toggle if I wanted to, a toggle state. So that's literally it. I just click on the toggle state, make my changes like that, and that's it. So I can just toggle it between here, click play to run the animation, and there we go. How cool is that? If I want to add another state, maybe a button that looks a bit different, I can just hit plus, new state. This is going to be maybe an inactive button or something like that. So I'm just going to gray this one out. Oops. Let me just grab the background color of it like that, and just make this gray or something like that. Okay, so now I can just drag in a new button, make this inactive, and I'm done. And I don't have to have that weird stack and dragging different arrows. So it's a bit cleaner. I prefer it over Figma. Hit play. As you can see, everything still works. Okay, collaboration is a big one, and I could probably spend the whole hour on this, but I'm gonna keep it short. The difference is that Adobe XD has local documents, right? Whereas Figma is fully web-based. All right, so you run into this issue when you want to share files is you create your design locally. So it creates a local file, and when you want to share it, it's going to create a duplicate of it in the cloud, right? So you're going to end up with two documents here on your device, on your laptop, right? Which I don't like. I prefer having one file, but again, not too bad, I guess. And the thing is that they need to have Adobe XD as well. So if I want to share, I can go up here to the plus and then invite them via email. And that's all you have. And when you invite them, they can edit on it, all good. But again, they need to have XD. Whereas in Figma, you have the ability, okay, so this is something I shared here, but you can just hit share, and then you can just generate a link and send it to literally anyone you want. Again, since it's web-based, it just opens in their browser and everything works. So it's much, much simpler. You can also choose for them to have the ability to only view or edit, which I really like. So you would go here, copy the link, send it, and you are done. That's very cool. I love that. Okay, Another thing that I really like about Figma is if you go home here, let me get out of here. There we go. You can create your own project, but you can also create a team. And you can also invite people to this team. So let's say we have this team project here. You can share this to anyone, see members of EdBoys, and then they have the ability to work and edit on multiple projects at the same time. You're limited to three design files, but you can unlock it if you're working in a larger team, which is completely fair. I don't think it's that expensive. So it's $12 for the professional one, and you have unlimited ones. So that's cool. Okay, so that's one nice thing. In XD, you're limited to individual files. You cannot create teams or anything of that sort. So again, a bit restricted when it comes to collaboration. Another awesome thing about Figma is you have comments. So you can just click on the comments here, click, hey, this needs changes. All right, just like that. And now everyone can add their comments just like that. And they're hidden by default. Only when you click on comments, they're gonna pop up, and then they can click on it. You can add reply. You can add a resolve symbol to say that it's all done. Pretty cool. In XD, I mean, I don't see anything. Unless they added it and I don't know about it, there's no comments in here. So again, that's another big disadvantage. Now, since both of these are linked to the cloud, you can check out previous versions of the project that you've been working on. Now in XD, if I click up here where you have the arrows, as you can see, it does a timestamp of all the changes that you did in different times. So I don't know, maybe I'll do some changes here. There we go, and it updates it right there, right? So this is the current version, but I can always jump back to a previous one if I wanted to. So I can click on these three arrows. Now you cannot quickly visualize it, so if I just move between them, which is a shame, because Figma does that as well. I can open it in a new window, but you have to wait a lot. And there we go, this is the previous version. Cool. But again, here, there's not much you can do. You can resave this, and then you can invite people to edit on this version if you wanted to. But again, it becomes a bit messy, whereas in Figma, you literally just go here to show version history, and you can quickly toggle between all the versions. And let's say you want to revert back to a previous one, so you don't like this one for whatever reason. You want to go back to this arrow version. You can click the three icons here and just say restore this version. All right, and that's pretty much it. Or you can copy a link and send this to someone if they want to visualize it. It's so much more simple. I don't know, I prefer this over the way Adobe XD works. And this themed building thing is also very cool. So I don't know, just seems like the way to go for me for team projects. And last but not least, I want to talk about the few tidbits that I like and dislike about each program. So what I like about Adobe XD is the UI. I just think it looks nicer, it looks cleaner, minimal. Figma is a bit, I don't know, it looks a bit, I don't know, the font's a bit ugly, this bar here looks a bit strange. I don't know, I just prefer the look of it, much cleaner. I also like that it integrates nicely with Photoshop and Illustrator, which are the two big ones, right? Yeah, just sync everything up nicely, work on your icons, and everything updates perfectly. So that's very cool. A weird part is you cannot add borders to the frames for some reason, or artboards. Whenever I share a prototype, I usually like to add a background. So what I do is I have my artboard here, and then add a nice background like that, which is outside. Let me go back very quickly, which is outside like that. And then I just add a fill, a linear gradient to it. Anyway, just imagine that this looks nice for now. I know it's ugly. Here we go, just something like that, right? So I'd have that on the outside. Come on, XD, why you do this to me? Anyway, and then just have this artboard a bit rounded up, but I cannot do that. Whereas in Figma, it's super easy. I just add a rectangle in the background like that, and then just corner this up nicely like that. And boom, that's beautiful. And then I have my animations and my prototyping and everything displayed in the middle there. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Now you'd think that you could just add a rectangle and do it that way, which works, but on rectangles, you cannot add a layout grid. So if I want to show you that very quickly, if I do a rectangle, so imagine this is the artboard, right? This is our website in the middle. There's no way for me to add a grid. Talking about grids as well, in XD, you can go to layout, you can do columns, which is cool, and you have customizability of the color and the size and etc., but you cannot add rows for some reason. So look at that. In Figma, you just go here, layout grid plus, and then you just click columns. You can do the same thing, 12, change the color and everything, so it works the same way. But I can add another one and just change it to rows, and I have 12. So how cool is that? And here, by the way, you cannot add multiple. So you can use this as your default one, but you're stuck with one. Whereas here you can do multiple ones and then just toggle between them, which I find really cool. So again, just small things like that that make your life so much easier. I also like that Figma is all web-based, so nobody needs to install any application. Sharing is easy, works on all the systems, on Mac, on Linux, on Windows, anywhere pretty much. Whereas again, XD is stocked pretty much with Mac OS and Windows. But yeah, I guess that's about it. There's so much more to cover, but I'm gonna leave it at that. For me personally, moving forward, I'm gonna be working with Figma, just because of all my frustrations that you've seen in this video. Alrighty, that's gonna be it for me today. This was planned to be a 15-minute video, but turns out that it's like an hour long or so. It is what it is. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you like it. Check out my courses down below if you want to learn more about web development. I'm gonna slowly start working on that web design course as well. Okay, until next time, bada boo.